Hello and welcome to the Wendell Effect. My name is Brandon Wendell, and I will guide you through the markets, hopefully. Before we get started, let me go and jump into this real quick and bring in my disclaimer. There we go. Shrink myself down and move out of the way here. Trading Mindset Podcast or its personnel is none of us are registered broker dealers or investment advisors. We're going to take a look at the markets from an educational standpoint, not taking advice or holding particular securities. And past performance is not indicative of future results, and there's always risk involved in the markets. You should never try to trade or invest with any money you can't afford to lose. Keep that in mind when you're looking at this. And trading mindset personnel are not subject to trade restrictions, so we could have a position in a security or initiate one at any time. So, that being said, we'll move along here. You want to stay in touch with me? I would love to hear from you. You can email me at the Wendell Effect at tradingmindsetassociation.com, also at TraderBDub on Twitter. Catch me on the YouTube, obviously, where this video is usually available. Search for the Wendell Effect. So, that being said, we'll kind of jump into today's schedule. We're going to take a look at weekly market analysis, as I usually do. Equity index futures, then go into the energy futures, into sector analysis, Indian markets, and crypto. So, actually, I should change that because I'm going to do a little bit more than just Bitcoin. So, we'll just call that the crypto section now. So, keep an update. There we go. And again, bring it back up. And we're getting into crypto a little bit later today. So, also, just want to keep you apprised, I'm going to be taking next week off and will not be producing a video because I'm going to go on vacation. It's my birthday coming up. So, for my birthday, I'm taking the whole week off. No training, no nothing, no markets. Not going to worry about it. Just going to relax. So, I will be back in 2 weeks. And, well, let's jump into this, see what's going to happen in the markets for the week of August 1st and beyond. On the weekly chart, you can see the S&P didn't really come into a good supply zone, but, that's the origin of some selling pressure. I'd say it's not really supply because both of these are kind of basing candles inside of this leg-in candle, but all the selling pressure really originated in that section that we're coming into now. So it'll be interesting to see if we can get through this. The momentum is not really strong, so that's suggesting it will not push through. But I don't know, things we're in the summer doldrums. Usually we shouldn't see as much movement as we've been getting. Usually see a lot of choppiness and sideways movement, not a lot of strong movement to the upside like we've been getting. So this is unusual and may not be sustainable. That's the key thing. Looking at the daily chart, actually I should check at what's going on right now as I jump out to my live charts here. And the reason why I wanted to check that out is we were showing a lot of bullish pressure today. So if I go to the daily chart, I start off with a clean chart here anyway. You could see that we started pushing deep into that zone, but honestly, later today, as the day is wearing on, it looks as though we're stalling. So like I said, we're into the selling pressure, came in very sharp, kind of light volume altogether, and they're now starting to stall out a little bit. So we'll see if that's going to be just kind of a pullback. Usually August, somewhat bullish this time of year, but not that great. September is where you usually see the biggest sell-off. So we may be setting ourselves up for that if we can't get through the supply in that time. We did change trend on the 4-hour. We had a little divergence, but when we pulled back, we couldn't get below 40. And you can see we've been making nothing but higher lows and higher highs, and we're still continuing to do that today. As a matter of fact, again, going back to the chart, if I go down to the 4-hour time frame here on the S&P, clear that out, you can see that, well, for the most part today, we're just sideways on Monday. And not looking that strong. Again, the volume is a little bit off. Maybe that's what's causing us to go a little bit weak. But if I go into, let's see here, oops. Oh, that's the wrong one. I wanted indicators. Here we go. If we go into volume, there it is on the bottom. If you go out to the daily chart, you can see that it's okay, average volume. But overall, if you were to look at the continuous contract, this is actually relatively light volume compared to earlier in the year, although it's not too bad. But typically we do have light volume, not heavy movements in price either, so we'll see if this is sustainable. The strong market, when you look at all four compared to each other, the strongest market and the leader to the upside has been the NASDAQ. And where the NASDAQ goes, so will the rest of the markets. The S&P is still much strong, but it's number 3. So the NASDAQ and the Russell have been the two kind of pulling everything upwards. So looking at the NASDAQ, we don't really have overhead supply here. We're actually breaking the new highs already, and that's suggesting that the bullish run will continue possibly through most of August. Looking at the daily chart, we're actually already have broken through this supply zone, although today I might be pulling back a little bit. So again, let me go out to a live chart here. And looking at the NQ on the daily time frame that I'm on, yeah, you see we broke out of these prior highs, but we're getting some indecision right now. So not sure if that's going to be able to continue. And going down to the 4-hour time frame, we are seeing movement to the upside, but a lack of momentum. That's called negative divergence and usually leads to a pullback in price. So will this be a reversal of the trend? No, probably not. It's just weakness and a pullback. That's all. So that's what I'm seeing right now. We're getting that pullback. I did this picture on Sunday, and you can see on Monday we've been actually pulling back already. On the weekly chart of the Dow, it's just kind of falling along. It is very weak compared to the other markets. You can see it's been the least of the movers to the upside. You saw that percent change chart as well. Here on the daily, we're just coming into that daily supply as well, and we're probably not going to be able to get through it. I imagine us going a bit sideways here. So in the 4-hour chart, it too is starting to see some weakness. We tried to move higher. We've been in a bullish trend, but as we're reaching the origin of a lot of the selling pressure, we're seeing sideways movement and some lagging in the Dow today. However, the other bullish market is the Russell. It too is showing a little bit of movement up. Didn't quite break the prior highs, but there's really nothing here to hold it down on the weekly chart till we get to 1973. On the Russell daily chart, we are in a daily supply, but we've got enough momentum to push through. And that looks like what we might do this week is actually push through that area of supply. Down to the 4-hour time frame, we do have another supply zone here, 1909, to worry about. We're holding this trend line very, very well. Let's take a look and see if anything's changed today. Looking at the live chart on the 4-hour time frame, there's my trend line. You can see all we're doing is testing it, and it's confirmed. You can use it as a trading time, trend line, because we've tested it multiple times. When you have 3 touches on the trend line, it actually confirms it. So anyway, regardless of that, we do have a little bit of overhead supply that we're going to come into at 1909.6, and we'll have to see if the trend gives or if the supply gives. It looks like the supply might try to hold as prices have moved up, and we're going to make a run back down towards that trend line. They might actually give you a nice little short time frame uptrend, or I should say long, on the uptrend line. So if we get the pullback, because here we have a negative divergence, that's suggesting a pullback to the trend line. You might be able to buy the trend line bounce and target the 1909.6. So that looks like a pretty good play potentially coming up. Again, where you just get a pullback to the trend line and then go long wherever that matches, somewhere around 1873 or so to 1909. That would be your target. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Anyway, moving along here. Back to my slides. Moving on to the energy markets. On the weekly chart of crude oil, we've been trying to get higher, but we keep getting these topping tails in the weeklies, which is bearish pressure. So we're kind of stuck a little sideways. Although when you take a look at this, on the daily chart, we had a positive divergence. We try to confirm bullish pressure and a trend to the upside because after the bounce off daily demand with the positive divergence, when we pulled back, we could not get below 40. That's actually very bullish. However, we still haven't gotten above 60 yet. We need to get above 60 in order to be able to maintain those new highs. Technically, we're in a daily uptrend, higher low, higher high, but there's not a lot behind that high, and it's not sustaining itself right now. So we got to be very cautious. You could consider this to be some selling. So there is strong selling pressure, but a possible supply zone there around 104 anyway. So going down to the 4-hour chart, going into the beginning of this week, I expected a bit of a pullback, and here's why. You see the divergence. This again was last night's photo, and if we go into a live chart, let's do that. There we are in September on CLU 2022. You can see the divergence, and there's the pullback. So unfortunately, I didn't get to record this in time, but I expected that to happen. On the pullback, we actually went below 40. That's actually pretty bearish. And we had already tested this demand zone, so I expect us to go a bit lower. And as of right now, I'd be very careful. There might be some more selling opportunities here. We have a drop base drop supply right there, where I'm using this one wick or the one body of that candle there. This is actually your leg out, but I use the high too. If we rally back up on the 4-hour, 97.15, 98.43 might be a pretty good selling opportunity, and let's see where this might go. This is not a good demand zone here, so I'm actually going to look back even further And we may go down to that daily demand at 84.47. We could see a pretty good push down. Initially, though, there is a little bit of buying pressure right here. That's your first target, 87.20. So, putting it all together, going back to the right edge here for the live chart, looking short around 97.15 with a stop about 98.50, targeting that 87.20 area for target number one. Target number two, if we can get it, is 84.47. So, crude oil, as you can see on the seasonal move, is 60% of the time during this until August 8th. That's my birthday, by the way. From the 30th of July to August 8th, we're usually pretty bearish. So this fits right in line with what I saw in the 4-hour, that pullback that's likely to happen before we start to flatten out a little bit. Looking at the nat gas, you can see we tried to rally up again, but we really had very weak momentum. So on the weekly chart, lots of bearish pressure last week. That is not looking good for nat gas. Going into the daily, you can see we started pushing down because we just didn't have enough momentum to sustain. But since we're in a bullish trend, we might only be pulling back to 7.453 before we rally once again. On the 4-hour chart, you're seeing that pullback where you have some weakness coming in, but not only at the 7.453, but inside of that, you actually have a demand here on the 4-hour, 7.236. So again, if I go out to the live charts, nat gas, on the 4-hour time frame, we're actually seeing we gap down a little bit this morning into some of this buying pressure and have rallied off the buying pressure, but it's very weak. So we're likely to catch a big move back down again. And I'm going to look for the shorting opportunities, as I mentioned, but I don't have any good supply yet. Maybe, let's see if we have anything on the 60-minute. Well, we're running up pretty much into rally base and the gap down. That might be the opportunity, but it's not signaling a good trade right now. So I'm going to hold off and wait. But when I find a good supply zone, I'm going to be looking for a short down to that, the mid fives, low five area eventually. Where was actually before that? Sorry, 7.236 was the first target, not the fives. 7.236 down to that area before we rally again. You can also see that overall the markets are sideways. It's choppy during this time of year from the 30th of July to August 5th. 53% of the time it goes up. So you kind of flip a coin here. It doesn't really have good momentum in either direction. Gasoline is violating that demand and hopefully keeps going down. That'd be great for filling up your car at the pump. You can see a topping tail last week where you saw that selling pressure coming in. We'll see if that continues. Overall, still somewhat bearish. Now, we had a positive divergence that led to this rally, but there's really not much to it. So we could continue to see lower prices on gasoline. We did bounce off the supply, and as we did, you notice we could not get above 60. That's pretty bearish. We had momentum before, but kind of lost it. So overall, and we can take a look at live gasoline. There it is. You can see we're pushing down to the bottom of the range again. We're just back and forth in this range. The fact that we did not get above 60 but did go below 40 is very bearish. So if we rally back up, we might stall out in this area. Matter of fact, what I would look for is a rally up to a fib level perhaps. And what we got here is, well, look at that 61.8 is right there, that basing that we have anyway. But I would expect us to stall out at one of these fib levels. You can see we're stalling out at 38.2 right now. So if we stall out, there may be a shorting opportunity. Maybe even if we break down below this 23.6 again to continue the move down, what I would look for is something like this, where you had impulse, correction, and continuation. So target number one would be 61.8% of the prior move. And the way I'd look at this as a trading opportunity would be short if we break the 2.9724. That would be the entry. And right around here. Let me have it right. 97442. Now let's do this. Nope, wrong one. There we go, 9742. That would be the entry if we break down. Stop loss you want to put right above the 30138, and then target one is the 280, and target two is 267. There you go. Possibility of the continuation of the trend to the downside. On the seasonal move, you can see that it goes down about 74% of the time during this week. Well, actually, a week and a half or so. July 30th to August 8th, gasoline is usually very, very bearish. Almost 80% of the time, we go to the downside. So it's a high probability opportunity to take that short. It's just a matter of where you get in. So, like I said, could get in. I showed it on the live one. If we break down to see new lows with a stop at the prior fib level and target one, target two. Very simple. Heating oil also is kind of flatlining a little bit at the weekly demand zone. You can see we're losing a lot of momentum here. Going into the daily time frame, we're kind of sandwich, moving sideways. I made a new word, sidewich. We're sandwiched in a sideways movement. We're sidewiched. Anyway, I'm going to patent that, right? So you can see we're just kind of moving back and forth in that area. It looks like we want to break down. And if we do break down, our next target will be the 30717, but I just don't see it really moving too much. Maybe, again, sidewitching back and forth in this range. So if I go back to heating oil live on the 4-hour time frame, let's see what it looks like. Up there I am on the 4-hour, and again, it is just moving sideways in that range. You see, back and forth, we're drifting down towards the bottom of the range. Looks like a lot of momentum down, so instead of bouncing, we may end up getting that break. We'll just have to watch. And that's what I was seeing on the 4-hour chart. Sorry, I was looking at the daily. I forgot to put it back on the daily here. That's where you really see, again, the sideways back and forth. Anyway, continuing on, we can take a look at the stock market now and see what's going on with our sector performance for the week. Overall, for the last month, we have been getting some performance in what you would normally expect for a bull market, but also seeing some of the safe haven securities, utilities specifically, doing pretty well. Just kind of mixed. I mean, all across the board, we rallied. So this is showing a healthy market, what you would normally expect in a bull market. And that's what we've been getting. It's just not a lot of volume behind it, so you got to be careful. Last week, we started signaling a market peak again, where you had energy as the best performer. You usually get that where you've got the top of the market performers and then the peak market performer before we start rotating over into the safe bulls and healthcare, which is a safe haven. So we'll have to see if that's what actually happens. The overall last week was very, very green, except for a little bit of consumer defensive was a little bit off, and some healthcare, which again, those are the safe haven securities. Everything else was relatively bullish with a few exceptions. Meta, Qualcomm, Comcast, Charter were off a little bit as well. But overall, this looked like a broad market push to the upside. And it looks like it might be ending soon. So going into the S&P, you can see that for the next couple of weeks, August 1st through August 12th, seasonally, we typically move up. But honestly, it's not much better than 50-50. We're 60% winners, which means you can almost go either way this week or these 2 weeks. We could basically be expecting sideways movement for a little while. Kind of a shift in the momentum, if you will. So we'll take a little look at a follow-up here. Costco was a bullish trade that we've been watching. And, I mentioned that there was a divergence. You might want to take some profits. I said that last week because with the negative divergence that we saw, you usually get a pullback. Well, I'm sorry, this was that week right there. That was last week. So what happened was it did gap down. It did pull back. So hopefully you got your profits before it did that, because it did give you a chance. On Monday, we were still up here. Tuesday, we were down. Then we pushed back up. So it looks like we might end up reaching our target eventually. But again, we still have another divergence. So if you didn't get out the first warning, this is now a second time we're getting divergence. You need to get your profits. The other one was Edwards Life Sciences, which also made it to its target. After it hit the target, we had a gap down on Wednesday. That might have been earnings driven. I'm not sure. You never want to hold in earnings because of that uncertainty of what's going to happen anyway. But it looks like we're done moving up. So if you didn't get out, we might get a little bit of a gap fill, but don't expect that to come all the way back up again. I think this one is done. Knee was another one that I was looking at, and remember, it pulled back to the lower demand zone. Well, last week we gapped up right into our target. So again, not sure if that was earnings driven or what, but it was up a little bit and then it just went right to our target pretty much there on Tuesday. So that was a pretty good winner. On to the sector ETFs to see the rotation. The XLY surprisingly is still going higher. We broke out that consolidation to the upside, pulled back, but I did not see a retest of the triangle before we went higher. And there's really not much holding us down. We could continue to go up this week. The markets could be a little more bullish on the discretionary and could see some rallies there. The communications sector, kind of dead. We're just moving sideways. We really don't have much momentum there, so I'd stay away from that because there's just nothing happening. The momentum is flatlining, and so is price. Technology, however, is also rallying quite a bit. We actually broke out of this area of supply that I thought was going to hold us down. It initially did. We had that pullback, but now impulsed up, and we're actually moving up towards our next target of 147.06. Lots of momentum here, so buy the pullbacks on technology. It's not done moving up. Probably continue to squeak by to the upside because there's no supply. We could keep going up until September, so I'm definitely bullish on the technology sector. Industrials. This one's an interesting one because it's also very, very bullish, but you can see we ran right into a daily supply. It's a very strong supply zone. So I'm expecting a bit of a pullback here. However, the trend's not going to change. We're going to pull back to demand and possibly rally again. So there's an opportunity if you wanted to trade the ETF going short at 95.26 if we start breaking to the downside, targeting 90.88. And then look for the bounce to go up to our next target of 104.13. So kind of wait and see. I didn't see what it did today, but if I go into XLI, it's still kind of hanging out there. So you still have that opportunity. Watch for it to see if it starts turning around. We are still getting higher highs and higher lows, but if we start seeing weakness, this will come down right to that demand. Anyway, on the industrial side, if we want to look for opportunities, we have LHX on a 60-minute chart. And what I'm looking at now is if we do get that pullback on the index, I'm also looking to pull back on individual stocks, obviously. LHX is very, very bullish still, so look for a buy opportunity at 237.07 with a stop loss 234. Target number one is a tested supply zone. I'm going to go to the untested portion about 243.5. And then if we can get through that, eventually over the 255 area is our next target. Additionally, in this sector, if you're looking for a shorting opportunity, there may be one here on Fastenal. We are in a supply zone looking to short maybe as it leaves the zone for some confirmation. The target is the Fibonacci extension. It's just under 46, about 45.75 and 42.12 with a stop loss you can see at 42.15. So let me take a look at Fastenal and just see what it's done so far today. And it's still testing that high, but can't seem to get any higher. So it looks like it's going to roll over. I would wait. Now we gapped down, but I would wait for prices to trade downward through the 51.17 for the short entry. CPRT. This is also one I'm waiting for a pullback. I don't have anywhere to really short. I mean, we did go into our first extension target. If we pull back, I'm looking to buy 119.79 with the stop loss 118.50. And I'm going to target 133.92. However, if you wanted to do a counter trend trade, CPRT, there we are on the 4-hour, you can see we're actually pushing a little bit higher today. I was going to say, if you tried to short at that level of 128, it's a bit risky because it's counter trend. You have to put your stop maybe one average true range above, but I'm not seeing any reason to short this. It's just buying opportunities on pullbacks. So we may not make it down to 119. Instead, well, we don't have any good demand zones. We really kind of ran into this today with the gap down. So just got to be patient. Wait for the right opportunities. It may happen, it may not. But I'm going to wait for that pullback to demand. Now on the materials, this was interesting. We changed trend. We had a bottom that was put in right here where we made these lower lows, but we had higher lows on the indicator, which is bullish or positive divergence. Next thing you know, we put in a low that's above 40 on the RSI and we're taking off. So very bullish on this sector as well. Pretty much all the sectors that lead a bull market are still looking to go to the upside. So I'm still relatively bullish on these equity markets. Albemarle, I don't know how to pronounce it, ALB on the 4-hour chart. If we get a pullback, there's an opportunity to buy 228.22, 224.61 with a stop just below at 224. Going to look to target that 250 area, just underneath that at 249.52, and then target 2, you see at the top at 277.87. Okay, so moving on, and we've got CF Industries Holdings, also a bullish opportunity if we can get a pullback. So you can see we got really good buying pressure and follow through to the upside. If we pull back to 90.68, 89.52, looking to go long with a stop at 89.25, targeting 104.69. Now, onto the energy market, you see that this is gapped up and went to the upside after that positive divergence and a pullback that was not below 40. So very, very bullish. It's likely we continue to go higher to 83.14. So there's definitely some upward potential still in the XLE. Still got to look to buy the pullbacks if there are any. So keep an eye out for that. Consumer staples did actually break out of this zone. Remember, I was watching it saying it's likely to break to the upside because the more you test the zone, the more likely you are to break out. You're taking away the orders that are holding it down. Now, unfortunately, we kind of missed out because it broke out, pulled back, and it's already taking off. But we do have overhead supply at 76 that we'll have to watch for as our next target. So keep an eye out for that. XLV healthcare hasn't been as strong, but it did make a new high last week. So really not much going on here, but we are holding that upward trend, and we do have some decent momentum, but not as strong as other sectors. So look for better opportunities. Probably not interested really in playing this, to be honest with you. XLU, the utilities have been a nice move to the upside, but we're right into supply. Now we have a lot of momentum. We'll break through the supply, but it's going to stumble first. So look for a pullback. If I go into XLU, whoops, hang on. If I go into live charts, oops, sorry, I was doing something else here. If we go to XLU, and again, we're on that daily supply, you can see even today, as the markets opened up, we opened up with a little gap down. They're still making more runs for it. So I would look for intraday opportunities, or even here, a 60-minute. Unfortunately, it wasn't really a good demand, but we gapped down, ran down right into that as demand. As you can see, there's kind of rally, one base, and then the rally, and it's already taken off. But I would look to see if there's more opportunities on pullbacks. If we get another instance of that where we gap down off the open, I would say that there might be an opportunity to buy rally, base, rally right here. If this ends up going a little bit higher first before it comes down, I would look to buy maybe 73.80, 73.60, with the target being that other daily supply that was way up there, wasn't it? What the heck was it? Yeah, I had it on the slide. Oh no, we don't have anything. My bad. We might just keep going. So if we're looking back at this, let me go and refresh. There we go. We could use our targets like this. Rally, pullback, and now we have targets. So if you end up going long 73.80, first target would be 75.71, second target 77.24. So that's what I'd see on the opportunity for the hourly on the XLU. And we have financials also still running to the upside. Not sure what that was, but kind of playing off that line there. But oh, that's what it was. There was a consolidation that I had drawn. It broke, and then it was a false break. It actually went to the upside then. So still bullish and continuing to move up. Our next target is 34.14. So if you get some intraday pullbacks, we could keep going really until this kind of selling pressure around 35. So financials are likely to rally. That being said, Aflac may give you an opportunity. Now the earnings are coming out. Actually, I think they're out today on August 1st. So we have a supply zone overhead at 58.72, 59.73. Watch for a shorting opportunity if we have earnings that drive us into that. So let's take a look. AFL. And you can see earlier today what happened. Came into a demand zone that I was looking at. Wait a minute. Oh, that's what it was. So I had the higher time frame supply overhead, but on the 4-hour, you can see there's a demand zone just below it, 56.08. Unfortunately, I didn't get the video out in time because you can see if I go to the 4-hour chart, we actually hit our entry today. So I apologize, but there's still maybe additional opportunities. As you can see, I picked the demand zone and it gapped down, ran into that today. The earnings were actually last night. So what are the earnings on this? The estimate 1.28, and actually, sorry, it's today. So we'll see if it did come out after hours today. Take a look at things like earnings whispers and see what the earnings report was. Type in AFL. Now, if you're not familiar, the earnings whisper number is the actual number you need to beat. So that shows 127. Now, the number that was being quoted is the consensus number. That was 128. So 127 is the real number, what they call the whisper number. So let's see, 405, what did they report today? They had reported earnings of $1.46. So we're likely to see some after hours activity or even a gap up tomorrow. So if you got in early today and took a chance on the earnings, obviously it's probably going to pay off. We'll take a look to see. If I go into my settings here on the symbol, take a look at extended trading hours and see if anything's happening right now. Doesn't look like it. They got pre-market, but nothing after hours. So let me try a 15-minute time frame. There we go. And yeah, we'll just have to wait and see what happens tomorrow because this is not trading pre-market. And yeah, if we get some after hours trading, or sorry, some pre-market trading, could take us right in that supply. So if we gap into supply, again, that was on the daily time frame, look for it. Obviously, you take your profits on that trade anyway, but on the daily supply, you would be looking for a shorting opportunity perhaps. Now going back right here, that daily supply 58.72, 59.73 might offer an opportunity if we gap up into that to gap up into some selling pressure to push us back down. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, this is nothing really happening right now. The reason why I picked this as a long trade is seasonally, it's very bullish. For the next week, 86% of the time over the last 15 years, it's gone up. The average return, not huge, a little under 1%, under 0.75% actually, but still bullish nonetheless. So keep an eye out for that. But with the gap into supply, it could push us down. As far as real estate, this is also bullish right now. You can see we had the positive divergence followed by a low above 40 on the RSI. So we changed to bullishness. Looks like we're still going to move up to the 45.29 target. Now, Apple was another trade I was looking at, and I was looking at a buy opportunity here at 150.21 with a stop at about 146.30, target 163. And you can see, and unfortunately just missed the entry. Now, you had to have a little bit of guts to hold through the earnings, but it rewarded you with a target being hit. Unfortunately, I don't know what Apple's doing now. Let's take a look. Go to the 240. And you can see after it hit the target, it's just gone a bit sideways. I think the earnings are supposed to be, yeah, they already were out. So it had a little bit of a surprise, not much, but enough. Caused the price to move up. So we're still moving a bit sideways. I don't really have a good re-entry spot if you missed it back here. Maybe if we get a pullback to close the gap, it might bounce again, but that's not great. I was trying to see if there's a way to get in to target the next supply at 173.08, but a little risky. Probably better opportunities out there. Oops, sorry. And let's see, got so many things going here. There we go. So Old Dominion Freight Line was another one that I picked last week, and that was for a long July 25th to August 18th. 90% of the time it moves up. Well, hopefully you're able to get in on that one because this is what I was looking at on the daily chart. We had a bit of a pullback going on, and that's all it was because there's a lot of bullish pressure. Well, if you listened to me last week and you took the long at 263.99, let's see what happened. It took off. Look at that. From the demand zone, blasted off, and we just hit our first target, or our only target. So the earnings actually did help. It caused it to push to the upside on those positive earnings. But again, zones worked, trend worked. That's really what it came down to, is following the trend. So hopefully you got a piece of that. And well, we got some new ideas, and I follow the same rules. So we should see what happens with those that went over. Shifting gears, we're going to go to India now for the week of August 1st. So welcome back, everybody who follows me from India. You can see that Reliance really has not been helping us. It has not been driving the market whatsoever. We're pretty flat. So you've been getting TCS, ICIC, actually financials have been very, very strong, as you can see. Motors, not so much, but the financials are where it's at, and some infrastructure here, some non-energy minerals. Tata Steel, Cemenco, things like that. Anyway, look at the Nifty Weekly. We did break out of the prior high. I said that's what you need to watch for, and last week we did. So the bullishness is continuing. Now the real test will be, as we come up towards 18,000, we need to get above 60 to maintain that bullish move. Otherwise, it might fall back, and we do have a demand that we just formed here around 16,000 on the weekly. On the Nifty Daily, nearby targets don't really have anything overhead supply. So nearby targets are 17,332, then up to 17,674. For a move up. We had a move, pulled back, and now we're impulsing again. Lots of gaps to the upside, so lots of bullish momentum still there. Just look for longs. Pretty much it. On the 4 hour, nothing's changed, same targets. Again, lots of bullish momentum. Looks like it wants to continue for a while. So looking at the Nifty, historical pattern for the next couple of weeks here, you can see that it's got more bullish moves up than it has years that has gone down. So 60% of the time over the last 10 years, we've been bullish. So there's a bullish bias to the market. Not a huge move, though. As you can see, it's a little over 0.25% average return. So don't expect a lot out of the markets, but be on the bullish side if you want to be right. Looking at Reliance, this is not where it's going to be. You can see that there's weak momentum. We made a similar high, but really just don't have much momentum even after earnings. I don't know if the earnings were disappointing or what, but you're not getting help from this. TCS is taking off. You can see we had a positive divergence, and after the positive divergence, we got confirmation the trend is bullish. We're going to break through all these supply zones. They're just little pause points before prices keep going higher. So I don't think there was anywhere to get in, but going to TCS, let's check that out on the stock side here. NSE. And yeah, it's choppy, but really what I'm looking for is intraday, if there's some opportunities to buy on pullbacks or buy the breakout above 33.20, that'd be the other opportunity there. And it looks like it's just going to continue to go higher. You know, if we're looking at this, let me go to the 240 for a better view here. If this has been our rally from these lows, our impulse up, correction down, if we break out above 33.20, we should go to 3,400 and then about 34.78 for target number 1 and 2. So look for that to happen. We also had Infosys pulled back to a little bit of daily demand that was here and took off this week. There's nothing to hold it down from getting to 1732. So again, we have two lows that are above 40. We got bullish trend. So look to buy Infosys if you get a pullback. Go back to Infosys, the NSE, and you can see we pulled back a little bit intraday. Go to a 60-minute chart. Nah, I didn't have anything there. Just trying to see if there's anywhere to buy this. There really isn't, unfortunately. So you either buy the breakouts to new highs or wait for a zone to form intraday and just look to buy when that happens. But I just don't have anything right now, unfortunately. Be patient. There's still lots of room to the upside. I did show in the 60-minute. Oh, there was an area here, 1522 that I put in on the 60. I'm sorry, it's right here. You can see that basing and gap up, but it hasn't pulled back to that area yet. So that's still valid. Buying at 1522 or perhaps a breakout above these highs, targeting that 1598, just under 1600. Target 2, by the way, is way up here, 1711. And we'll probably get there. There's very, very much bullish pressure here. Oops, sorry, wrong button. HDFC Bank, also bullish. You can see we made a higher high. We didn't have as much momentum as we should have, but it is still bullish. So still moving up pretty well, and we'll see if that can continue. ICICI Bank, another bullish bank after earnings, still going up. As you can see, we just tagged our second target. The first target on the impulse was right here. Just stalled and are just stalling here before we keep going up. We should be able to get to 850, 851 pretty soon as well. Just again, looking for buying opportunities on intraday if you can. ICICI Bank. And you can see today it did pull back a little bit and bounced again. So I don't really have any great entry here. Nope. Just got to be patient, wait to see if zones form and then look to buy. Anyway, the Bank Nifty overall, only 40% winning trades. We should be in a sideways to slightly bearish move now, according to the last 10 years history. We really don't move much in the Bank Nifty this week. So I just showed you there's been a bunch of bullish activity, though, and the same thing happened. We broke out of trend on the index on the weekly chart, but we did not get above 60 on the RSI. So it could be a false break and get a retest here. And seasonally, this is not the time for the breakout, so I'd be suspicious of this breakout. Matter of fact, let's go back to weekly chart. Try that Bank Nifty indices. There's Nifty Bank. And you can see on the weekly chart, we did go a little higher today, this week, but it's very, very muted as far as movement. If I go down to the 4-hour time frame, yeah, we got a bit of a divergence here. Although it did overcome and try to go a little higher, it's not very strong. I guess overall it's strong, but not strong compared to where we were before. So we're coming closer and closer to our first supply here at 38,414. So watch for us to stall out in that area. But until we get there, you're still bullish. You can see on the intraday, there it is, 240. We're coming up to that 38,414 supply. If we get up there, or as we get closer to it, we'll see some more weakness creeping in. Anyway, that's what I got on the Indian market, so keep an eye on that. If you've got any questions, again, let me know. We're going to jump into cryptos now. As I said, I'm going to start off with Bitcoin, but we'll continue on with some others as well. On the weekly Bitcoin, we bounced off a weekly demand at this 19,392. We are not done going down. Sorry, I hate to say it. We're just getting a small bounce. I highly doubt we'll get above 30,000, or maybe just barely before we drop again. So really, we're just correcting a little bit. And you can see here, we got a negative divergence on the daily chart as well of Bitcoin. Let's go out to the live chart, shall we? So here, I'm going to bring in some of my cryptos that I follow. And on the daily chart, as I mentioned, there was negative divergence. And you can see we followed through today to the downside. So if I go down to the 4-hour time frame, you can see this is our retracement that we're in right now. We've already exceeded 38.2. It looks like we should be able to get to 50%. Big question will be right here, will we break 40 on the RSI? Because that's a measure of momentum. And if we do go below 40 on the RSI, I expect us to retrace at least to 61.8, which is 22,258. If we can't, if we stay above that and make some sort of bouncing, then we will not go below 50% retracement or 22,724. So keep an eye out for that. We're kind of in a demand zone right now. As a matter of fact, I didn't mark it, but you have rally, it's your leg in right there, base, and then rally with some follow through. And as we're coming into that, if we're holding 40, if you don't go below 40, then demand should hold, and we could actually bounce out of this area. So it may not be the Fibonacci retracement levels that we have to deal with. It may just be this demand zone that gives us a little bounce. Now, if we do bounce, I don't expect too much out of this, but at rally, correction, and impulse up, we got 25,307 and then 26,816 for possible long. So the play here would be to buy if you break out above 23,136 again. So you could buy on the breakout from that demand zone. Stop would go below at about 22,450 or so, and target 25,307. So moving down here, let's go to Ethereum, and I'll start off in the bigger picture. And looking at Ethereum, we had the same kind of bounce as we did on Bitcoin. Not really at demand, though. It's a little bit kind of in the middle. But this is still showing a lot of weakness. So going down to the daily time frame on Ethereum, you can see that we are approaching rally base. Doesn't really form a good zone, but I guess a kind of market like that. And you see we held that area with a negative divergence. Prices were moving up, trying to make new highs, but we had no momentum behind it. So right there, you see, started falling down. That signals a pullback, and that's what we're getting right now. So do we pull back all the way down? Oh, actually, that's already tested. I was going to mark that as a demand, but it's not. That was a retest of a prior demand right there on the daily. So as we pull back, let's see, retracement. We've got some possible pullback levels, and we're already hitting right there, 50% retracement. And we kind of overdid it. Usually when you get a larger move like that, after move down in price, that's usually the end of the move. So we might get a bounce here at the 1611 to push higher. Although, I don't know, still pretty weak. But, we could end up bouncing from this area. If we break out again above 1652, then what I would do is look to buy. So I would look to buy if we can break above 1652, and my target would be next extension, which is actually just the top of the zone here, about 1875, and then 2040 would be the next target. I just want to take a look to see if there's any zones we'd run into. Not really. Everything's already tested. As far as anything fresh, this would be the next one, right around 2200. But the only way we're making that, excuse me, come on. The only way we're making that is if we get a lot more momentum. Excuse me. So, yeah, again, if we're looking to break out, I'd look to buy above 1652 if we can bounce here. And my first target would be 1876 with a stop loss just about 1610, targeting 2040, and then 2204 would be the target after that. So we have three possible targets up to that supply zone. And as we break out above this prior high at 1786, we need to have more momentum on the RSI than we had here. If the RSI is not above 70, then be careful because it probably won't keep going. So we can take a look at some of the other ones that are moving around. We got XRP. Actually, before I go any further, let's do this. I'll go back to the home and take a look to see under heat maps, crypto, kind of what's leading us, right? Let's do it that way. You can see Bitcoin, it's kind of weak. Ethereum, still kind of weak. And as far as leaders to the upside, you're seeing some green here. TRX. What else do we have? Shiba. Leo. That one's not one I'm familiar with. This one's up 70%. What is this? So let's take a look at the advanced chart. Quanto swap. And that's just a gap up. So we got to be careful with volume as well as charting. So what we just did actually, yeah, you don't want to buy this. So it's up 70%. I'm sure this is going to attract a lot of attention. Like it just caught my eye. But this would be a great shorting opportunity if you have the capability of doing that, because what we did is we just gapped into a sell zone supply. And that's going to come all the way back down. So yeah, be careful. Don't get suckered into things like, chasing price like that. So going back, actually, what was the other one? Shiba and also TRX. Take a look at some of those and see if there's anything legitimate that we can actually do. So Tron is moving up. Okay. I'm not as familiar with some of these other coins because I don't follow them as much, but it doesn't mean you can't trade them. Charts are charts. They seem to follow all these patterns that you see as long as there's enough volume. We're just looking at mass psychology and seeing where the participants are buying and selling. And we have a similar problem here. Even though we're trying to move up a little bit, we're running into the origin of some really good selling pressure soon. So we still have the possibility of moving up another penny from 7 cents to 8, really 7.5 to a little over 8. I guess it's only 50 or half of a penny, really, not even a full penny, but that's still a good percentage move. The problem is, where do you get in? Well, the nearest area to buy on the daily time frame is this. It's not even that great. You have drop base. There's your rally with the buying pressure. You still need to pull back a little bit. So let me see if there's anything else on smaller time frames that could reduce the risk as well. And, well, I don't think that's wonderful, but so we're bouncing off of this area now. This has been tested multiple times, but we're still bullish, and that's why we moved up. We're kind of stuck in a range, aren't we? I would not be surprised, and this would be my favorite play on this one, to see if we break below this level as a false breakout, run into the 7.25 cents to 0.0718. So that's 0.18 pennies to 7.25 pennies right there. That would be the buy opportunity. And the target would be just under 8 cents. So if we can break down, it might lead to a false breakdown from here into that zone, and then you buy, targeting the next zone. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here on Tron, and we'll see if that ends up playing out. Again, going back into the map. What else? We have Shiba. I had that on my list anyway, we could have looked at. But if we're looking at, there it is, Shiba. See if there's anything even worthwhile to look at here. Start off on, there we go, the daily chart. Sorry, I was laughing because it's that. Anyway, we're just stair-stepping to the upside, but we failed to make a new high. We failed to get into bullish territory here for the momentum. I wouldn't touch this right now. The only place I'd look to buy is if we get it on sale way down here. You got drop base and rally. That's suspicious too, because we had trouble breaking out of prior highs and we just went sideways. So I'm going to stay away from this for right now and look for better opportunities. So again, going back on the heat map, see if there's anything else that catches my eye. We already looked, we didn't look at Leo, did we? I'm trying to remember, because these are not ones I usually follow, as I said. But again, charts are charts, it doesn't matter. So looking at Leo, that's apropos because I'm a Leo. It's my birthday coming up, so maybe I buy this, right? Well, I can't buy it right here because, well, kind of use that area up. Although we do have a positive divergence, and because we made a fresh low here, you might be able to consider this as a unique area. As far as that wick go, though, it's crazy. Yeah, that's going to be tough to want to buy and put a stop way down. What I did notice, though, is that we have a positive divergence on Leo. We made a lower low, just slightly, but we did. And we could not do that on the indicator. We made a slightly higher low, so that suggests that we might actually get a bit of a rally here. But the problem is getting in. I mean, that is not the best area. It's so wide. Where do you put the stop? I don't really want to put it down at 4.2. And I don't know, I could try to look at smaller time frames, see if there's anything better there. Perhaps on the 4-hour. It gets a little bit better here, but still pretty wide. Got drop base rally. See how wide that is compared to the rally. And it stumbled before it made new highs, so that again is not even great. We still need to pull back a little bit to get in. I don't know. Let's try a 60-minute time frame and zoom in a little more. See if there's anything better. Doesn't really look to it. I might have to sit this one out. So, close that out. Again, go back to my heat map. And those are some of the bigger coins. As you can see, there's plenty of them to choose from. But I want to make sure we've got something we can actually play. We got ApeCoin versus US dollar. And this is where you run into trouble. You could have very light volumes on these, which makes it hard to get out. Getting in is usually not an issue. It's the getting out is the problem. And looking at ApeCoin, this is definitely bullish as of recently on the daily chart. I don't know if we're going to pull back enough to let us in. I would actually look at that as a buy point. So we're looking at about 4.5 to 4.78 right there is a really good entry spot. But I don't know if we're going to pull back far enough. You can see that as we're moving up, we're losing a bit of momentum. You should be getting more momentum as you make new highs, so therefore we may be getting ready to fall down a bit. Don't really have any targets as far as supply. Could be looking at the last impulse correction. Oh, there we are. Target number 1, 7.25 basically. As we push up into that, we should start to fall down. The only other entry spot that might be a bit better and higher is right here. 5.8343 to 5.6475. You got drop base and rally that broke us to some new highs. If we pull back to that area, there might be an opportunity to buy. Matter of fact, I can set an alert there. That's what I wanted. I want it. I hit the wrong buttons here. It's not going to let me alert on that, so I'm just going to put a horizontal line to let me alert on the line instead. There we go. Add alert. So it'll let me know, send me a message. So I know when to buy. And again, I'll look to buy around the 583 with a stop below the 564, probably about 560. And then my first target, 727, second target, 8.28. So looking at a couple of those opportunities. We can take a look at things like Luna. That's been a pretty good mover. As you see, it was very, very bullish today, but gave it all back. Wow, kind of crazy on that one. As far as the daily chart, Luna has a sad story from 120 down to less than a penny, but recently it's been getting some good pops. And I don't really see anything here. Maybe intraday trading. And again, nothing, no. I'm just going to have to sit back. I don't really want to play this one because it's just been up and down today even. So just be scalping it really. When you see things like this, where you have that nice little pop, there you got a smaller pop to be able to trade, but you can see it came into supply and pushed down. So overall, not a very good buy opportunity there. Go back again to my heat map. And going into the next ring, we have ICP Quanto Swap. We can take a look at that as well. And again, just be careful. Let's check to see if your platform allows you to trade those, number one, and make sure there's enough volume that you can definitely get out as well. So we had a big gap to the upside. And it was kind of interesting here, actually, with that gap up, we broke out of the supply. You can see we've been holding that multiple times right there, and we were able to gap up. However, when we gapped up, we didn't really get a huge amount of momentum to carry us through, so we're going to stall out a little bit. We might try to retest this area before we go any higher. It does look like we should be able to go higher though. See, that's already been tested, but you can see multiple tests have happened on this coin. So 961 would be a viable target. I would expect this perhaps to pull back a little bit, maybe retest the prior highs at about 783 and then go up to the 961. So there may be an opportunity here on ICP as well. I got to put that on my list. Let me add that in. ICP, USD. And I'll use the bind. I guess I can put them both in there just in case. Not sure which one. I was using the trading view one there. I forgot to put the other one in, but I'll add it later. It's no big deal. I have the alert set. That was on Leo, I believe. Anyway, I'll check my alerts later. And again, I can go back to the heat map and just check to see if there's anything else jumping out. And I can also run some scans too. Flow, take a look at the advanced chart here on flow. And we're going to have to wrap it up here pretty soon. But it looks as though flow is coming up into some selling pressure pretty soon on the daily chart. And drop, base, drop right there. So looking like it might cap out about 203. We're not quite there yet. So we do have some bullish momentum right now. If I go into the smaller time frame. Oh no, that was a 15-minute. Never mind. That was the small time frame. Sorry. Start off on the daily here and take a look at what's going on. Now we can see higher lows, higher highs. A little bit of weakness and momentum, but we actually could continue to go up right here on flow until we reach this area. So we got room to go to 237. Oh, sorry. This is off. Yeah, I'll put it down here at the bottom. So 236. Now, if we're looking for an opportunity to get in, oops, wrong button. What I would do here is go down to a smaller time frame, and nothing great. We're just creeping our way to the upside. The best buying area would be right here at 179, but that would require a pretty good pullback and then try to buy 179, targeting 236. Again, I can set an alert there to let me know if it gets to that price level. I'm actually set up for my email there, so I'm not going to worry about it. This is flow on Coinbase. There it is, Coinbase version. I obviously have different versions. I can log into my Gemini account. I got Kraken. I've got a couple different places I can trade this as well. And let's take a look if we go to a smaller time frame. There's anything a little bit higher that might be able to get us in case we don't pull back that much. It looks as though we're already turning around. You can see we're kind of stuck with a lot of sideways momentum, not really moving anywhere. Yeah. So I don't know if we're going to make it all the way back down to that demand zone. If we do, it'd be kind of a false break. But the other opportunity would be possibly to buy if we come back down to this tested area. It's been bouncing pretty well off that 192 area, trying to target again, ultimately 236. You want to get out before you hit that level though. It may be forming a new zone a little bit higher. Drop, base, trying to rally. We'll just have to wait to see if that actually forms. And if I drop down to the 15-minute, this was a buying opportunity earlier. Already gone. Yeah, drop, base, rally. It's working out pretty well. But as for right now, I'd wait for the 192.90 area. Again, that was on the 60-minute time frame, I believe. And looking to buy there, it's a little bit risky because we've been there so many times, but it's been holding. So if we do end up bouncing off that area, your first target would be maybe if we come back up towards these prior highs around 206, still not a bad gain. And then ultimately, if we can break out 236. So that's what I got for you so far for crypto. Let's see. I want to thank everybody for being here for this week. Again, I'm going to be gone for a little bit for vacation, so I will catch up with you again when I get back from vacation. That'll be the week of the 14th, I believe, of August, when I'll be back. Let me just check to make sure. Yeah, I'll be back on the 14th, 15th of August. So until then, trade safe, trade well, and everyone take care. I hope you enjoyed the video. Talk to you again very, very soon.